Okay, so to solve this, question 1, how many ribbons does Julie have? Well, it's listed here, it's 12 blue, 27 yellow, 9 red, and 2 green. So if you just add them all up together, you'll get 50, sorry, you'll get 50. And it's just simple addition. You can do it this way if you need, or you can just add them together. What fraction of ribbons are blue? So we've got the total, which is 50, and we know that 12 are blue, so it just means 12 over 50 will be the fraction. If we simplify that, we're going to get 6 over 25. The two large right-angled triangles are identical. The internal triangles are similar in shape to the larger triangles. Similar in shape just means the internal triangle is this big triangle but just made a bit smaller. So you can see this is the same shape as the actual big triangle. Which is larger, the shaded area in the triangle on the left or the shaded area in the triangle on the right? Well, because they're similar in shape, you can assume all of these are the same size. So what's actually happened here is it's been divided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 equal parts. Right, so 9 is going to be the bottom of the fraction. And then if we figure out how many is shaded, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is 6 over 9 is shaded of the whole triangle. And with this one, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So you got 16 equal parts. And how many shaded in? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 over 16. Now you just have to figure out which fraction is bigger. And a lot of you should know this from the last homework. All we have to do is make the denominators the same. So you have to find a number that 16 and 9 both go into. Which is the quickest way to do that would be to look for a number that goes into both of them, a smaller number that goes into both of them. I can't see any. So I'm just going to do 16 times 9, which, if I figure that out, is going to be 144. So we can put that at the bottom. We can make a fraction of 144. And now we just have to see what we did to get from here to here. Do the same here to here. So times it by 9. So this is going to be 90 over 144. So that's what the right fraction is. That's how much of it is shaded in. And again, we'll figure out what we're doing from 9 to 144. Timesing by 16. And we're going to do 6 times 16 to get the top. And just to rub everything out because it's getting a bit complicated. All we have to do is figure out 6 times 16, which you can do like this. So 6, 36, put 0 here, 6, and you do 96. And that goes at the top. And so that is the amount that's shaded in on the left fraction. And you can see 96 is bigger than 90. So the answer is that the left is bigger. Okay, let's move on to question 4. Evaluate which of the fractions giving your answer in the simplest form. Evaluate the following fractions, sorry. So a lot of you will know how to do 1 over 4 plus 1 over 4. because that equals 2 over 4. But what it's asking you here is first to do 1 over 3 plus 1 over 4 plus 1 over 3. And you can't do that immediately because the denominators are different. So like we did above, we have to change that to have denominators that are the same. And I chose 12 to be the lowest common because it's the lowest common multiple, because 4 and 3 both go into 12. So now we just check, how do we get from 4 to 12? We times by 3. So we're going to do the same thing up top, times by 3, we get 3. Then how do we get from 3 to 12? Times by 4, we do the same up top, 4. So these are our new fractions that we can use, and we can actually add these now, right? And we're going to get 7 over 12. And what we've got left over is we still have to minus the half. If you see here, we haven't done this yet, we've done this. So all you have to do, just add that on. And again, we're just going to have to do the exact same thing that we just did, which was find the lowest common multiple so we can actually subtract it, because 12 and 2 are not the same number. So 12, we can use 12 again, because 12 goes into 12 and 2 also goes into 12. So we're just going to change the second number, see what happened from 2 to 12, it's times by 6, so we're going to do the same to the top. So this is our new number. Oh, this is our new operation. And 7 minus 6 is 1 over 12. And that will be your final answer. Let me just get the door. Okay, we're back. Okay, let's do question 5. Evaluate the following fraction, giving its answer in its simplest form. Sorry. Okay, first of all we have to change this into a fraction, because you can't do operations between a fraction and a whole number really, or it's quite difficult. So any whole number, if you change it into a fraction, it just has 1 at the bottom. So this is how we can rewrite this. And now all we have to remember is KFC, which means keep, flip, change. And what we keep, let's go step 1, we keep the left side the same, we flip the right side, so that means flipping where the numerator and the denominator is, and we change the symbol to times, right? And we do this KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, whenever we see a fraction divided by another fraction. So as soon as you see a question asking you to divide, just remember KFC and you'll be able to do it. So again, we're going to keep the left side. We're going to flip the right side. It's 1 over 6 now instead of 6 over 1. We're going to change the symbol to times. And now most of you will be able to solve this, which is just times the top by the top, bottom by the bottom, which is 2 over 30. And to simplify that, it's 1 over 15, because 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 30 15 times. Okay, let's do question 6. Choose which option. Choose the option where the fractions are arranged in ascending order. Again, to know if a fraction is bigger than another, don't rely on your intuition or your instinct. Just convert the bottom numbers to have the same denominator. Convert all the fractions, to have the same denominator. Then all you have to do is see if which one is bigger, right, at the top. So we've been given the numbers 3, 12, 3, 18, 12 and 9. I'm just taking it from option C. These are the bottom numbers that we have. And we're going to need to find a bigger number that these all go into, and that we're going to choose as the denominator, which is probably LCM, right? So we can see 3 goes into all of them, right? So if we use a multiple of 18 or 12, like let's say we use 12 times 2, 24, 3 is also going to go into that, so we don't have to worry about what 3 goes into. 9 doesn't go into all of them, so we need to make sure we can sort of ignore this and figure out which one do all of these 3 go into. And I'd start off by just picking the biggest number and timesing it a few times to see if it works, right? So 18 times 2 will be 36. So we can just try that, see if these go into it. 12 goes into it times 3, and this goes times 4. So we've gotten lucky. Quite quickly we found the number that we're going to use at the bottom. But the reason I choose the biggest number is because we're going to have to use the biggest number at some point. Like it needs to go into it, right? And if it isn't 18, because 12 doesn't go into 18, the only thing it can be is higher than that. It can be 18 times 2, 18 times 3, 18 times 4. So you might as well just try them. So what we've gotten is 36, and we're going to have to just convert all of these numbers to have 36 at the bottom. I'm going to do the 1 over 3 first. What you have to do is see what we do from 3 to 36 times 12, and we're going to do that to the top. So that's our first fraction. The second one, what do we do from 18 to 36? We times 2. We're going to do that to the top. We get 14. So you can already see that the number 7 over 18 is actually bigger than 1 over 3. So this option can't even be right. Let's just finish it off. 12 to 36 is times 3. We're going to do that to the top. It's going to be 15. And 9 to 36 is times 4. And we're going to do that to the top. So it's going to be 16. And now we know which fraction is the biggest. So obviously 16 over 36 is bigger than the rest of them, which is 4 over 9. And we just have to look for which option has 4 over 9 at the start. Not 4 over 9 at the start, sorry, 4 over 9 at the end. Because it's in ascending order, not descending. So the largest is going to be at the top, and the smallest is going to be at the bottom. Oh, so we've actually got it. Yeah, so it is actually C, because we've got 12, 14, 15, 16. Sorry about that, if I haven't confused anyone. Okay, let's go on to question 7. Convert the following fractions to decimals. The easiest way to do this, for me at least, is if you just think of something over 100. So 5 over 100, or 50 over 100, you can see that's a half. A half is equal to 0.5. And 5 over 100 is therefore not 0.5, 0.05, which is 5%, right? 5% of 100 is 5. So if I can give you any number at this point, you should be able to figure out what it is in decimal. Because if this is 0.5 and this is 1, anything with a single digit is just going to have 0.0, right? Anything with 2 digits at the top, so for example 97, it's just going to be 0.97, and this is going to be 0.09. So what I would do is first convert this to have 100 at the bottom. You times it by 10, and you times it by 10, so you're going to get 30 over 100. And like we said before, that's 30%, or it's just 0.3. So that's going to be our decimal. Here, we can change this to have 100 at the bottom. We times it by 2. So we're going to do that to the top. 17 times 2 is 34. So now we've got 34 over 100, and you should be able to tell that this is just 0.34. If that is 0.34, right? And again, 100. Get to go from 20 to 100. We times by 5. And we're going to do the same to the top. Try and figure it out before I do. 14 times 5, what is it? It is 70. And that is 70%, or 0.7. But like I was saying, whenever you get a double digit above the 100, it just means 0 point that. So you just put the 50 here and put a 0 point in front. So if I give you 88 over 100, you should be able to figure that out. 22 over 100, you should be able to figure that out. It's just 0.88 and then 0.22. Just put the 0 point in front. And if it's a single digit, just put 2 zeros in front, 0.09, right? And that's all you really need to know. And again, if you put it, if it's even bigger than 100, it's 2.10, right? Because if you get that, you get it, but don't worry about it if you don't. Okay. You go through question 10. So what fraction of the shaded area? What is the fraction of the shaded area? First we just start counting how many boxes there are, and we've got 3 on the left and 8 on the top. If you just times them together, we're going to get 24, which is going to give us the total. So you could have just counted the whole, how many boxes there are overall. That's just a quicker way of doing it. So now we've got the total number of boxes. Just have to count in how many are shaded in, which is 9, so it's just going to be 9 over 24. And if you simplify that, 3 goes into both of them, and we're going to get 3 over 8.
Neil spends 1/3 of his money. He then spends 1/3 of what he has left. What fraction of his money did he spend altogether? To work out the answer to this question, we have to remember that of means times. If Neil spends 1/3 of his money, then that means he has 2/3 left, since 1 minus 1/3 is 2/3. And if he's spending 1/3 of what he has left, remembering that of means times, all we have to do is multiply 2/3 by 1/3, which leaves us with 2/9, and that's the fraction of his money that he spent altogether. Question 9. What is half of a third of a quarter? So we know from the previous question that of basically means times, so all we have to do is multiply all of these fractions together. So we have half times 1/3 times a quarter, and if we just multiply the denominators by each other, we get 1 over 24, and that's the answer to question 9. Number 10. David has a square piece of card. He cuts off the areas which are shaded, as shown in this diagram. What fraction of the original area is now remaining? So if we see the square piece of card has been divided into 4 equal areas. 1, 2, 3, 4. So each of these areas are its own square, and we see that in squares 2, 3, and 4, half of it has been cut off. So what we're left with is a quarter here, half of a quarter here, half of a quarter here, and half of a quarter here. All we have to do is add all of these fractions together after finding out the multiplications. We know that half of a quarter is an eighth, so we can fill these in, and then we just add the fractions together. We have 1/4 plus 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8. So we have 1/4 plus 3/8. And now to add the fractions, we have to make the denominators equal. So we can turn 1/4 into 2/8. And if we add that to 3/8, we get 5/8. That is the answer to question 10. Now if we look at question 11, it says, work out 3 1/10 times 5. 3 1/10 is what's known as a mixed number. And in order to convert a mixed number into an improper fraction, we have to multiply the denominator by this big number and then add that to the numerator. So we have 31 over 10. And if we want to multiply that by 5, all we do is multiply 31 by 5 and 10 times 1. And what we're left with is 155 over 10. If we want to turn that into a decimal, that would be equal to 15.5. And if we wanted to turn it into a mixed number, we can simply do a division. 10 on the outside, 155 on the inside. We see that 10 goes into 15 once, with a remainder of 45, and 10 goes into 45 4 times, with a remainder of 5. So what we do is we put 14 on the outside as the big number, because 10 goes into 155 14 times. We put 5 at the top and 10 at the bottom. And that is our answer to question 11. Moving on to the last few questions. Question 12 says, what is 0.15 as a fraction in its lowest terms? Now, if we multiply 0.15 by 100, we get 15. And if we divide that by 100 again, we would get 0.15, meaning 15 over 100 is equal to 0.15. Now, if we want to simplify this fraction, we can divide both sides, top and bottom, by 5, which leaves us with 3 over 20. Question 13 says, what is 1/3 of 414? Now, of means times, so all this is saying is 1/3 times 414, which is equal to 414 over 3. So in order to carry out this division, we put 3 on the outside and we put 414 on the inside. We know that 3 goes into 4 once with a difference of 1, and 3 goes into 11 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. The difference between 11 and 9 is 2. And 3 goes into 24 8 times. So the answer to this question is 138. Question 14 says, if 2/3 of a number is 24, what is 3/4 of the same number? So what we have to do first is find the original number. We are being told that 2/3 of some number n equals 24. Now what we have to do is isolate this number n, and we can do that by dividing both sides by 2 and then multiplying by 3. So if we divide both sides by 2, we are left with 1/3 n equals 12. And then if we multiply both sides by 3, we are left with n equals 36. And that is the original number. Now we have to find 3/4 of this same number. So we have 3 over 4 multiplied by 36. We can first simplify this by cancelling out the 4 with the 36. 36 divided by 4 is 9, and 3 times 9 is equal to 27, and that is the final answer. Finally, question 15 says, what fraction of each shape is shaded? We can see that in shape A, the circle is split evenly into 5 different sections, and we can see that 2 out of these 5 sections is shaded, meaning that 2/5 of the shape is shaded. In B, we have a square that's split evenly into 9 different squares, and we see that only 4 of these squares are shaded in, meaning 4/9 of the shape is shaded in. Finally, in question C, we have a rectangle that's split into 6 different equal rectangles, and only 1 of these rectangles is shaded. So that means 1/6 of the shape is shaded. That was the final question in this booklet for the maths section.
I'm going to go through the second comprehension because most of you should have completely gone through the first one in your lessons. So I'm going to read it out and then also show how I would actually go about working it out, and then if you got any of them wrong, you can see where your thought process is different from mine and how you should perhaps think differently to get the right answer. And usually it just pertains to going back to the text and looking for where the question could be. We just start off from a distance. Carly, having recently returned to Dorset, now sat with Sal on the riverbank, overlooking the river. From there, they could see all of downtown Dorset, and some of the prairie that extended outside of the town. It doesn't look like much has changed, Carly remarked. First of all, you can already tell there's 2 people sitting on a riverbank. You can already assume there's going to be questions around this, right? And they're speaking to each other, yeah? So, well,
up close, a lot has changed. They might ask you about why they're talking about change. I mean, you should already be curious as to why they're talking about change. If it looks like Sal has a better idea of what's changed or not. It looks like Carly might be new or might be returning from somewhere. Doesn't look like much has changed, right? Or maybe they're both returning from somewhere. Okay, just that when you're far away, it all looks the same, right? But up close, you can see that the new mural painted on the library, the stump where the elm in front of the city hall used to be, the stained glass in the cathedral windows. You can see all those small changes. Okay, so this is a list. You can already see stained glass, city hall, stump. Again, you can assume there's going to be a question around that. I suppose, I guess it's like when you're on an airplane and you look down at the land below. You know you're travelling something like 1,000 miles, but the grounds all look the same. Aside from the occasional lake or stream, it looks like you've barely gone anywhere. She's making an analogy here. Again, might have a question on that. I've never been on a plane before, but that makes sense, Sal remarked. The implicit reminder that his family's finances led to an awkward silence between. Yeah. So, Sal is poor. Might have a question on that. Carly smiled at him, remembering a time when they used to be best friends. Well, remembering a time, again, maybe they're not best friends anymore. Something might have happened, they could ask a question on that. Well, it certainly is beautiful from up here, she finally added, mostly to break the tension. I often forget how amazing Dorset looks. You know, it's funny. I spent so many years wanting nothing more than to leave this place, to find something bigger, to find new opportunities. But when I still close my eyes, I see the town I left behind exactly as it was. You might want to have a bit of a wonder about what point she's trying to get across there, because again, you can assume when there's a big chunk of text like this that they're going to ask a question on that. So if you don't understand that, make sure you read it again and be a bit more careful, right? That's why I wanted to bring you up here. When you see the town this way, can't help but be beautiful. Sal brought him up. Carly nodded and drifted into thought. Was she able to notice those small things in London? So now you can assume that she's moved to London. That's why she's having this train of thought. Or did everything look the same at all times? She knew that the city was beautiful from any distance or vantage, meaning one did not have to go to a trip outside of the town to appreciate it. It's explaining what vantage means. It means from anywhere. But she also wondered if she could ever learn to appreciate its beauty the way Sal could appreciate Dorset's beauty. It's true that absence makes a heart grow fonder, but does nearness make your eyes more focused? You might want to have a think about how this relates to the actual whole passage. It sounds a bit more abstract, right? Sal, thank you, this is beautiful. Yeah, let's go straight to the questions. Once you've understood the text completely, the question will be pretty easy, but you always have to go back and check. So which of the following is not one of the small changes that happened to Dorset while Carly was away? You can already remember that we've actually gone through that and we found that list. So there was a stump, the city hall, stump in front of the city hall. So the elm tree has been cut down, stained glass, and what else was there? New mural, stained glass, new mural, stump. So let's be. Carly mentions an airplane too. I mean, you can already go back and I'd check. Where was the airplane line? Here. We already knew that it's kind of like an analogy to what she's saying, right? So explain how things look different when viewed from a distance, show why life in a small town such as Dorset is so boring. Well, it wasn't that. She was using it to explain how she didn't notice the changes, right? Describe the way lakes and streams look from way high up. Well, that wasn't the reason she was making that analogy. Discuss the great distance she's travelled in the last few years. Nope. Explain how things look different from when viewed from a distance. Yeah, that makes the most sense. Which of the following statements best describes Carly's relationship with Dorset? Find where that was in the text. At first she says nothing much has changed. Later on, she says it's beautiful. And then she wonders if London could ever be the same, right? She also says something about when she closes her eyes. Let me find where that was. Yep, this section. Yeah, we can with those 3 pieces of evidence we can definitely get the answer pretty quickly. So she wishes she'd never moved away because London is not as beautiful as Dorset is. It's a possibility. I think it might be jumping a bit. She did not regret leaving, but she has also learned to appreciate it more since she's moved away. Again, seems quite possible. She does not regret leaving it, but she plans on moving back to be closer to Sal. Not sure about that one. There was no mention of wanting to come back. She wishes she'd never moved away, but she knows she has to go back to London and learn to find beauty there. These 3 are quite close together, they're pretty similar. We want to make sure we're very precise with our answer. So, she's drifting into thought, able to notice these small things in London. She's having these questions about whether she could appreciate London the same way Sal could appreciate Dorset, right? There's nothing saying that she thinks she has to do that. Might want to look at what she might be saying by this sentence. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. What she's saying, having been absent from Dorset, has made her like it more. So with that line, you can tell that, I don't know, she's contemplating the heart growing fonder, right? So she wishes she'd never moved away because London is not as beautiful as Dorset. I think she doesn't exactly say that she wishes she never moved away. So I'd cancel that out. The main idea here is she's contemplating whether she'll ever be able to appreciate London as much as Sal appreciates Dorset. She does not regret leaving, but she has also learned to appreciate it more since she's moved away. It's very plausible. And what was the last one? She wishes she'd never moved away, but she knows she has to go back to London and learn to find beauty there. I'm not sure knows is a strong word. I know she definitely does want to learn how to find beauty there. She doesn't know if it's possible. She says if she could ever learn to appreciate it. She doesn't know if it's possible. So at that point I wouldn't actually go with D. I'd probably want to think that she has started to appreciate Dorset a bit more now that she's left. As he said up here, it's true that the absence makes the heart grow fonder. So let's go on to question 38. As used in paragraph 8, the word vantage most nearly means pretty much described it there, meaning one did not have to go to a trip outside to appreciate it. So if it's beautiful from any distance or vantage, it's trying to say, I mean, the idea it's getting across is that you can be anywhere in the city and it will still be beautiful. So let's just look for whatever most nearly means it. way of seeing something. No, it's quite clear. You can tell because it says distance or vantage. It's going to be something that's similar to distance. An object that is very old. A place that is close to something. No, spot with a good view. Yeah, so it's sort of like at any distance or height, wherever you are, it will look good. At the end of the passage, the passage says that Carly drifted into thought. What does she think about? She wishes Sal could explain the things that make beautiful. We know that wasn't part of it. She concludes that she only finds Dorset beautiful because she has been away from it for so long. That's definitely part of it, because it says the heart grows fonder from absence. She contemplates moving back to Dorset as she has finally learned to appreciate its beauty. It's never part of it. She never says anything about wanting to move back. She says she might want to. Might want to learn how to appreciate London more, but she also knows that she appreciates Dorset more now. She wonders if she will be able to see the beauty in London the way Sal sees the beauty of Dorset. See, both of them are part of that final sentence. Oh no, the final sentence is about Dorset, and up here she says she wondered if she could ever learn to appreciate it the way Sal does. But I wouldn't say that's a conclusion. Let's look at the end of it. What does she think about? She concludes that she only finds Dorset beautiful because she has been away from it for so long. Oh right, yeah. So that's not the only reason. So it wouldn't be option B, because she's never said the only reason she finds it. She said she's finding it more beautiful now that she's been away. She doesn't think that's the only reason Dorset is seeming more beautiful. She admits that it is actually more beautiful now that she's been away. I'd say this is a much clearer thing that she's been thinking about. It's pretty much said dead on in the passage that she's wondering. Literally D, so I'd go with D. So for VR, pretty much you're going to see your answers on the answer sheet once you've uploaded them. You're going to know why you've got it wrong. Basically, if you've got it wrong, you've probably chosen something like reject and reluctant, which are sort of similar. But the reason you chose those two is because you didn't know what yield meant, which is basically to yield in a fight is to give up. So these two are much closer, right? So if you got something wrong, you might have picked two options that are quite similar, but they weren't as similar as they could be. So all it means is you didn't understand one of the words in this 6 or in this 6, right? You didn't understand it fully enough. So if you understood all of these 6 words well enough, you'd get all of them right. So for the ones you got wrong, check, Google it, look it up in the dictionary to find out what yield means, and make sure you note it down so you know it for next time. And then try and use it in your own speech. If you ever find yourself wanting to use the word surrender, just use yield instead, and you're gonna start to understand or have a better grasp of this vocabulary. And it would be the same for something like this one. The only reason you might get it wrong is if you don't know what the word means, right? If you don't know what avaricious means, you won't get the fact that it's greedy. It's the same with all of them. So even if some of them you might feel like you've got them pretty close, you might think, oh, steel and platinum, they should be synonyms because they're both metals, or because they're both like used in production. Even though they're similar, there's something that's much more of a synonym. which is stealing, or purloining, which both just mean the same thing. It's just to steal something. And these two, although they're similar, steel and iron, platinum, although they're similar, they're not synonyms. And so anything you get wrong in this section, Google the words on the correct answer. Because if you didn't get them right, it means you just didn't know what the correct answer meant. You didn't know what purloin meant, or you didn't know what monsieur meant. Monsieur. So note them down, use them, expand your own vocabulary. That's the only way you get good at this one. But I'm going to go into NVR now, because you already have the answers for these, and you have a dictionary, so there's no point going through it. So NVR, odd one out. What I see a lot of people doing wrong here is looking for something that one option has that isn't everywhere else. So you're working backwards in that sense. You're looking for the odd option, and then you're seeing, do none of these have it? Because here, let me show you with 89. I had a lot of kids who've done what they've done is they've seen that this one is straight, this one is the only vertical one. So they said none of the rest of them are vertical, so this must be the odd one out, right? So this one must be the odd one out. But that doesn't work. I'll show you why. Because then you could say this is the only horizontal one, and that's why this is odd, because none of them are horizontal, right? So if you work backwards like that, you're never going to get the right answer, because all of them are odd at that point. What you have to find is a rule that applies to 4 of them and doesn't apply to one of them. So you have to look at start off with question 89. You have to look at what's similar between these. Sometimes you get confused because they look exactly the same. But the similarity is that they're the same shape. And if there's nothing else different there, what's likely happened is one of them isn't the same shape. So these are all rotations, and one of them is probably a reflection. So you just want to check which one it is. And you can see, if you just work it around, these are all rotations. A is a reflection, so that's why A is odd and out. Up here, again, some people will look at E and it will say, oh look, there's a square on the right middle, a grey square on the right middle, and none of the rest of them have grey squares, even though A and B do. But then they'll look at something like having a white square at the top right or something like that, and they'll work backwards. But yeah, what you have to do is actually find something that all of them have and one of them don't. So if you look at first off, start with colour. You see grey, 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 grey. So that's already a different pattern to having it one on each row. This is grey, one on each row. That's the same pattern as that. And that's the same pattern as that. So because there's no rule there, we have to look for something different. You can look at the shapes. These always have 2 squares. There's no rule there again, so we have to look at something different. You might want to look at the number of shapes or the number of colours. So if you look at the number of shapes, there's 3 squares and 3 circles. 3 squares, 3 circles, 3 squares, 3 circles. All of them have 3 squares, 3 circles, so that's a rule, but it's not going to let us find the odd one out. Look at the number of colours of each shape. So again, just keep getting more and more specific, trying different rules. When something doesn't work, you have to try something completely different. So let's see. So the grey square, grey square, grey square, grey square, 2 grey circles on the same row. Grey circle, grey square. Yeah, there we go. Number of colours, right? So you can see all of these have 3 grey circles, and this only has 2. So, sorry, grey objects, right? So it's going to be C, and you just have to look for a different rule. So when you've tried looking for shape, you've tried looking for pattern position. Sorry, we looked at position first. Try something different. Try the color, and then if you don't find anything with the color, try the number of colors, or the number of shapes, or the number of positions, or the number of sides. You just have to keep trying every different technique until you find one. And for this one, again, a lot of these are similar. You have to be careful, just because these two have a square in the middle, that can't be the rule, because none of these has a square in the middle. It would only work if 4 of them had a square in the middle. So again, you have to look for something similar between 4 of them. Even though it's odd one out, you always want to start off looking for similarities, and then you can figure out the odd one out. So you can already see there's one rule there. All of them have the same shapes. They all have the same number of patterns, or at least look, it's grey, stripes, blank, black. And if you find any that don't match that, you could already immediately rule that out as odd one out. All of them match that. Same shapes, same patterns. There doesn't seem to be any specific order of them. So you might want to look at the positions of the shapes. There's 2 up top, 2, 2, 2. This is 3. So you can see there's a shape behind on all 4 of these. This one doesn't have a shape behind, so it's going to be D. Let's go into 91. When there's numbers, when there's like 2 arrows and there's a number of lines, you can quite quickly, usually these ones have a relationship. So this is probably going to be related to the number of arrows. Number of lines is usually going to be related to the number of arrows when there's 2 different shapes that have numbers, right? So let's look at it. There's 2 arrows and there's 3 lines. There's 1 arrow and there's 2 lines. There's 3 arrows here, 4 lines. 3 arrows here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this isn't +1, this is +2. You can already assume this is 1, 2, 3. So it looks like the amount of arrows there are is going to be the same as the number of lines +1. Just to simplify that, there's 3 lines here and there's 2 arrows here. 2 lines and 1 arrow, 4 lines and 3 arrows, and you can just get the gist. And this one doesn't follow the pattern, so it's going to be D. Dice. This one again. Look for similarities. Okay, so all of these look the same. It's not going to be this. There's nothing going to be with shape or shading. The only differences are the numbers. So we can assume the odd one out is going to be something like that. Let's count them. This has 6, 6, 8, 8, 7. 7's odd, so I'd just go with 7 immediately. Question 93. I can already quite quickly see something here. If you just look for similarities, again, look for similarities. Okay, so all of these have boxes. Okay, this one doesn't have a box. This is a box. This is a box. It could be C, but we just want to be careful that it's not. That the rule isn't about boxes, because we could have misjudged it, right? Like we did before. So yeah, exactly. Because these boxes aren't all the same. It's a pretty vague rule. You always want to check again for a more concrete rule. If you don't find that, go with C. Right? If you can't find it, just take the educated guess, which would be C. But again, we have time. We can look back. Let's look at the triangles. So these all have the exact same shape on the right. That's much more of a consistent rule than these boxes shapes, right? So I would just go with D on this one because it's the exact same shape. All of them have it apart from D. So question 94. This is quite, I think most of you probably got this one. You can just look at the four shapes outside, four sides on the outside shape, four sides on the inside shape. This one doesn't follow it. These two are the same shape on the inside and the outside basically, even though this is just a rotated square. But that's why it's going to be B. This one's E because the lines are different. Most of you got that, I'm assuming. Okay. C, these are all 5-sided. Arrows. D, these ones are too easy for you guys. Okay, question 98, similarities. It's the exact same thing. We have to look for a rule that these two match to, and then apply that rule to these options, see which one follows, okay? So before you look straight to the options and just think what looks similar, you have to find a rule. You have to define a rule here, and then you can apply that to the options and figure out which one it is. So we have to look for something similar here. First of all, what's similar between this object and this object? It looks like they both have two objects inside. And that can be a rule. The more specific the better though. So this object, they always have the same amount shaded in. This is half. Oh, so they have the opposites. They always have the opposite shaded in. So this is half shaded in, and this is a half shaded in. This one is 3/4 shaded in, only one. So you can already opposites. Opposite amounts, right? This one has like an outer layer. That's not similar though, because this one doesn't have an outer layer. But from that, we can quickly look to see if anything follows this and this. So if there were 3 objects, it would obviously say that wasn't it. All of these have 2 objects inside. Let's look for the opposite shaded. It can't be this, because this is 3 and this is 2 blocks shaded in. If you understand, this is half of it shaded in, and this one is 3/4. Whereas if it was following our rule, this one would only be 1 shaded in, so it can't be A. This one doesn't follow it either, because that's 3/4 and 1/2. This one doesn't. It's 1/2 and 1/4. This one is 1/2 and 1/4. There you go. This is 1/4, and this one is 3/4. These always add up to a whole, which is sort of what the rule was meant to say, right? So it's going to be E. Again, look for similarities in question 99. So these are 2 shapes. This is a 3-sided shape, this is a 4-sided shape. They both have lines inside. There might be a rule with the lines. So there's 2 lines on the 3-sided shape, there's 3 lines on the 4-sided shape. So we just have to look for something that matches that, right? I immediately just look at 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is 5 sides, so it's going to be B. So 1, 2, 3, and this is 1, 2. I'm going to assume there's going to be something related there. There you go. You can see there's 3 lines, and there's 3 of these. That's already a rule. We can quickly eliminate something that doesn't. So look here, 2 lines and 1 bubble. This is 3 lines, 3 lines, 3 lines, 3 lines, 1 line. Okay, so it's got to be something different. There's got to be something else part of it, right? What else can we look at? We can look at the number of black circles. These both have only 1 black circle, so we're going to assume the similar one is only going to have 1 black circle. Box that out. I'd cross out E as well because it doesn't have any white circles. I'm pretty sure all of these have to have a white circle. And now we're left with C or D. Just look at the similarities. All of these are halfway, so I wouldn't say C. And that is the reason I would go D. I'll go through the last three. These you don't have to add into your online answer sheet. Okay, look for similarities. You got the teardrops. They probably correlate to something. Looks like 3 triangles and 3 teardrops. 3 circles. Sorry, 2 circles, 2 teardrops. These match. So we're going to look for something that matches. That doesn't. That doesn't. That doesn't. These are the correct numbers and these are the correct numbers. So we're left with 2. Only left. Only it could either be D or E. To figure out how to narrow it down. Right. Well, let's look at the outside shapes now. So this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 on the outside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go. They're both pentagons. The outside shape has to be a pentagon. Is the other rule. So you can cross out D, and it's going to be E. Question 2. Similarities. So they always have a smaller version of the big shape halfway or on the edge of it. So we can quickly cross out any of this one and this one. We're left with 3 options. What about this? There's a black circle on the outside. Circle has 1 side. Triangle has 3 sides. Square has 4 sides. Pentagon has 5 sides. It's made it a bit complicated there. Well, let's look for another similarity because I don't think there's any rule there. So this side, the black is shaded in, the inside part is shaded in, and on this side the outside part is shaded in. So because they're different, it means there might be a rule connecting the differences. So there might be an object that makes it have the inside shaded in. So it could mean that if the outside is black, the outside circle is black, the inside of this shape will be shaded, and if the outside object is white, the outside of the circle will be shaded. So let's just look. So this is white, white. Yep, this follows. Black, and the inside is shaded, and that follows. Black, and the inside is shaded. So that seems to be a rule, but it hasn't let us narrow it down at all. What can we try next? Okay, so when I get stuck like this, I like to list out exactly what's in the shape. So we've looked at the big shape, we've looked at the small shape, and we've looked at the outside shape. There's only 3 parts of a shape. So the big shape, we've broken down the rules into 3 sides. The small shape, we've looked at the shading. The outside shape is correlated to the top shading. There must be something else. we've looked at the top one entirely. Question has stumped me. So one thing we could look at now is all of the numbers together. So 3, 3, 1. So number of sides adds up to 7. And here it adds up to 4, 4 plus 5, which is going to be 13. So they're odd numbers. We might have to get somewhere with that. No, this is 7. This is 2 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 8. And that's 16. Okay, so I'd go with A. I'd say because all the outside shapes could add up to an odd number. The answer scheme says B. If any of you think it, for any reason that is B, write in the comments. But I think it needs to be changed. I think it should be A. And I'm going to change that on SwiftGrade. So just let me know. Alright, let's go on to question 3. Oh, it won't even need to be changed on SwiftGrade because it's on the online answer sheet. Yeah. Let's go on to question 3. Okay, similarities. Sorry, look for similarities. These are both circles. Parts of a circle, at least. All of these are circles, so you can't eliminate any of that. These two triangles, they might mean something. They all have a dot in the center, opposite, right? So we can use that. So let's eliminate A, C, D. Oh, there we go. We just got B. Solely because there's always a dot opposite it. Well, that's the NVR, VR, and maths done. Sorry, and the English as well. But hopefully you found this useful. And yeah, if you think question 2 should be B, just write in the comments why you think it should be B. But I think it should be A.